It's no secret that I am a video game freak at heart, but I'm also quite big on theme parks, and recently I got to visit Epic Universe, which is home to the worlds of Universal Monsters, How to Train Your Dragon, and Super Mario. Obviously, Super Nintendo World was one of the highlights of it for me, but I was also kind of blown away because I wasn't expecting like such a good fusion of game design philosophies and theme park philosophies. But I kind of just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I figure the best place to start is with the power-up band, which kind of, ties the whole experience together. They're themed after, a bunch of different characters. I got Donkey Kong, because he's my boy. But, basically, it's pretty simple. You just slap it on your wrist, you connect it to your app, and it'll keep track of all your progress. When you get your band, you're sorted into a team with everybody else who has that same band, and you'll get like a coin leaderboard of how many coins your team has collected, and you can view that from the app, but also from these leaderboards scattered around the park. There's also an interactive map which shows you what you have and have not done yet, and I thought that was very cool. But the big highlight of the experience for me was actually these stamps, which are essentially your achievements. You get this big list of all these stamps you don't have, and it'll basically tell you, like, okay, this is how you get this stamp. And it provides, like, a great sense of progression, like, you're constantly unlocking things, but also kind of like direction. Like, it almost feels like a missions list. Because there's a lot of things here that, like, I would not have even known to look for that if I didn't see that it was a stamp. Like, there's an unbelievable amount of things to do just outside of the attractions, and, like, the completionist part of my brain, like, it satisfies it so much. And the power-up band isn't, like, forced or tacked on or anything like that. Everything's designed around it. It's not like some hassle that you have to, like, deal with every 5 seconds. But at a certain point, I kind of just, like, started doing things naturally without even thinking about the power-up band. It just became second nature. And honestly, there were a lot of points where it's like I would do something and I would check the app and I would get an achievement for it. And it would be like, what? I didn't even like scan my band. How did they know I did that? Like, I'm still stunned by that. But once again, it just goes to show how non-intrusive it is overall. Also, one thing I want to mention, the power-up band actually functions as an amiibo, which I think is incredibly smart. Even when you get home, you still have something to show for it. It's not just, it's useful during your trip and then, nothing else. No, it functions as an amiibo. It'll work in all your games. You just take it and you tap it to the NFC reader the exact same way you would any other amiibo, and it's there. I love that a lot. That's incredibly smart. The power-up band is completely optional. You can enjoy Super Nintendo World just fine without it, but you're going to be enjoying Super Nintendo World, like, as a theme park. And I think when you get the power-up band, that's when you can really start enjoying it, like, as a video game. Like a real-life video game. That's basically just what it is. Now, what makes this park basically a video game to me is its gameplay loop. If you're unaware, a gameplay loop is basically a series of events that a player repeats and it carries them throughout a game. So, like, Super Mario, for example, you play levels, you beat challenges, and you unlock the boss and you fight them. And you keep repeating that until, you get to the big boss, Bowser, and you win the game. That's the gameplay loop. And that's basically what you're doing in Super Nintendo World's quote-unquote story mode. So Super Nintendo World is split into 2 areas. There's Super Mario Land, which is all your Mario stuff, obviously. And then there's Donkey Kong Country. I'm going to start with Super Mario Land. Stepping into this place really just feels like you are stepping into the land of Mario, which, I mean, like, no duh, but it's very impressive given how stylized everything is and how animated everything is. And I think that's kind of it's a boon and a detriment at the same time. Because on one hand, it's like, you step in there and it's like, wow, this is like nothing I've ever seen before. But also, I think wear shows a lot more easily in a place like the Mushroom Kingdom than it would, like, I don't know, like Darkmoor or the Isle of Berk. While, yes, those areas are like fantasy locations, they're grounded in reality visually in a way that, Super Mario Land isn't really. Everything in Super Mario Land is so, like, stylized and pristine. So, like, I don't know, let's say I have, like, railing in Darkmoor and it gets, like, scratched or scuffed. It's like, well, everything's kind of already, scratched up and scuffed up in Darkmoor anyway. It's like, who's gonna notice? But that happens in the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's like, oh, you can see some paint tearing, and it's like the facade cracks a little bit. I noticed that especially with a lot of the animated figures around the park. There are so many animated figures in the park, everywhere. Which, it's Mario, everything's moving, it makes sense. But I cannot imagine keeping that many animated figures running all at the same time, and especially when some of them are up in high places that, like, I imagine it can't be easy to reach. every now and then you'll just get a figure that kind of just isn't moving. And I mean, ultimately, these, like, you know, these static figures or these, like, you know, scuffed parts, usually they're not too big of a detriment. Like, I wasn't, like, crazy distracted by them, because it was more about the big picture. Any little, like, scuffs like that I did see were both forgivable and understandable for the most part, I think. But the quality of the design in this place, it can't be understated. Everything feels very accurate to the games, and it feels like this was designed like a game, not just like, oh, we're going to take the visuals of Mario. No, it felt like structurally, this is Mario. Like, I'll take Mountain Beanpole, for example, which, you know, is kind of the big centerpiece of Super Mario Land. They could have easily just said, yeah, like, make a mountain and make it look like Mario. But no, like looking at it, like, this is something that feels like a level. Like, I could see Mario traversing this. It has everything he'd need. It has, you know, blocks, it has moving platforms for him to get around, it has enemies. Like, nothing feels like set dressing. Everything feels like this could be playable if you wanted it to be. Also, there's so many interactable elements in this park, a lot of which don't even require the power-up band. I just said that, but I'm going to start with one that does require the power-up band. Little 8-bit characters hidden around the park. If you're unfamiliar, a lot of the Mario games have these little hidden 8-bit characters that you can find in, you know, sneaky locations. This game has a lot of that too, and I absolutely loved it. Basically, you'll see these little readers where you can scan your power-up band, and they're like camouflaged into the wall. And you scan them, and pop, a little 8-bit character appears. I genuinely have no idea how they did that. Like, I thought maybe it was like a projection or something, but like I looked around and I wasn't seeing any. It's very impressive. It was genuinely such like a fun little scavenger hunt. Like, I love stuff like that. Some of these were pretty hard too. Like, I think like I got down to like the last 2 or 3, and I actually had to like look up like a video guide. They've even captured the me getting stuck and having to look things up part of video games. It's incredible. There's also these AR binoculars, which are really fun. They're styled after, you know, the binoculars in the Mario games, and you look through them and you'll see like a bunch of like little interactable elements like Koopa Troopas moving around or like flying blocks and stuff like that. There were 2 like kind of secret events here that I really liked. I did not see these all the time. I've heard that these kind of like appear in the binoculars like every hour or so. I don't know how true that is, but one of them, it's like you'll see like a sparkle in the sky, and then you'll zoom in, and you'll see the Comet Observatory, and Rosalina will fly by. I enjoyed that a lot. But the other, and I don't even know what I looked at to activate this, but you get like another similar zoom-in effect, and you see a bunch of Pikmin on the planet from Pikmin 1, and I thought that was so fun. I was not expecting that. It was great. Speaking of Pikmin, they're scattered absolutely everywhere throughout this park. They're in every corner, and it's so every time I get to see them, it's just a little hit of joy. They're so cute. Another interactable element are these slot machines, which you'll find in the corner of the park. That's just what the children of Orlando needed. Basically, you just hit the blocks and time your hits, and you try to get 4 in a row. I have a 100% success rate at this, which isn't saying much considering that I only did it 2 times. But I felt pretty good about it, especially when the people behind me complimented me on my skills, and I was like, wow, that's so flattering, thank you. One of the interactable elements that left the biggest impression on me is Note Block Rock. This is horrifying. The concept is super simple. It's just, oh yeah, a block is going to light up, and then you hit it. And then another block lights up, and you hit that one. And you just hit all the glowing blocks, and then eventually it'll play this big tune, and you get a stamp on your app. The difficult part. Children. I don't think a lot of kids, or even parents for that matter, realize that there's an objective here, or like a win condition. Which makes sense. I mean, it's not really super clearly marked unless you know how this works already. But the result is that children kind of just like slap it randomly, and there's like 3 hitting the blocks randomly, and even if you manage to get the attraction to yourself for a little bit, like a passing child is going to walk by you, and they're going to hit 1 block, and it's going to mess the order up, and you're going to have to restart all over again. Genuinely, I only did this, I only actually beat this 1 time, and I kept coming back to it. I kept trying to do it because I'm persistent like that. Every time the children happened. And of course, there's meet and greets. You can meet Mario and Luigi, who meet in the center. Toad also meets in the center. Peach meets in like this little outdoor gazebo. They held like a promotional event for the Mario Galaxy movie where you could meet Yoshi in the park. And that event ended like a week before I came to Super Nintendo World. But when I went there, it's like the event was still ongoing and Yoshi was still meeting. I didn't really get the chance to meet any of the mascot characters, but I have like, you know, looked at some footage of them, and they're really impressive. Mario, Luigi, and Peach specifically, they all have animated heads, and they look really good, and they have voice clips that allow them to actually interact with the guests. And it's not just like meow or something, like it's all newly recorded dialogue that pertains to the park. Genuinely some of my favorite... Ow, I just poked my eye. Genuinely some of my favorite mascot costumes I've seen in recent memory. Attractions, let's talk about those. Starting with Yoshi's Adventure, which I have mixed opinions on. Yoshi's Adventure is at the base of Mount Beanpole, and you enter and you meet with Toadette, who, until now, I did not realize how absolutely adorable Toadette is. She explains that Captain Toad is searching for the golden egg, yet, great explorer that he is, he lost his map, so it's up to you to basically board a colored Yoshi and track him down. Give him the help he needs. Super Nintendo World places a heavy focus on, you know, interactivity, and that extends to the rides, Yoshi's Adventure. This is basically a game of Where's Waldo. On your cart, you will notice there are 3 buttons, each corresponding to a colored egg. And every now and then when you're riding through, you'll hear like this little notification sound, and that'll basically tell you, hey, there's a colored egg, look for it. And when you find it, press the corresponding button on your vehicle. Simple, but it works. The ride itself is very slow, but I honestly don't think that's a bad thing, because one, I mean, you're going to be spending time looking for golden eggs. If you were zooming past each set piece, that'd be a little difficult. But also, this is more of a, like, soak in the sights sort of ride. And, like, there's one point where you get, like, a really good overhead view of the park. I love that a lot. So overall, I do like this ride when it's working. So when you enter Super Nintendo World, you get this, like, big, like, expansive view of the park when you first enter. And right across from you is Yoshi's Adventure. And literally, when I first entered, and I got that big expansive view, immediately I noticed the guests are stuck on Yoshi's Adventure. It's not moving. And if I knew better, I would have recognized that as foreshadowing. The queue for this ride is honestly super cute. It's styled after the Yoshi's Island games, and it captures the vibe so well. It's really pretty. But when I went in, it was like very like visibly scratched up. Like it looked like kids had been like clawing at the paint. It was weird. I didn't know what was going on. Outside the ride, I think that sort of wear and tear was pretty easy to ignore. But not here. I don't know, something about it. Also didn't help that the line was moving at like a snail's pace, and like constantly we were hearing this like voice over the speakers telling us that the ride has been delayed. It would just repeat over and over and over. And when the voice finally said, hey, the ride's running again, like everybody cheered. Everybody cheered. They were ready for the suffering to be over, and I was too. Luckily, when we actually got on the ride, we didn't have any stops, but the queue experience was not great. But visually, I do like this ride. There's a lot of animatronics, very simple animatronics, but they are very enjoyable and on model, and I thought they were very cute. But I do think the one I'm not so big on is the Captain Toad animatronic. The Captain Toad animatronic is creepy. His movement is like stiff and uncanny, and like it looks like his skin doesn't fit on right. And I swear, when I went, it looked like the material on his face was like starting to get worn down. Like I feel like I might have seen like the material on his face was starting to like decay a little bit. Maybe it's just my memory, but I remember Captain Toad freaking me out. Now, to be fair, if I recall correctly, this ride was way overdue for maintenance. It was supposed to happen like a month or two before I visited, but it was delayed, and it instead began literally the day after I rode it, so I only got to ride Yoshi's Adventure once. Assuming everything is in working condition, I'm sure this ride is a lot better, and heck, I'm sure if you visit it right now, it's gonna be a lot better because they've undergone that maintenance. But overall, I did enjoy it. It had some very visible, kinks that needed to be worked out, but I did enjoy it. Like, it's Captain Toad, it's Mario, it's Yoshi. I'm gonna have fun. Now next, we have the flagship attraction, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. And for me, the fun begins before you even enter the building. The exterior of this ride is just incredible, like especially at night when it gets this like really good, like ominous underlighting. Super Nintendo World looks gorgeous at night, but especially Bowser's Castle. This is a highly anticipated ride, so the wait times tend to stay pretty high. But like there's so much to look at while you wait. Like the queue itself may as well be an attraction. Like, you see where Bowser has been strategizing, you go through his library, which is like haunted by all these boos, you visit a factory where Bob-ombs and Mecha Koopas are being constructed. It's really fun. There's always something interesting to look at in every single room. The environmental storytelling is really good here too, and one of my favorite ways that this queue conveys Bowser's character is through the titles of the books in his library. They are so silly and absurd, and I was taking like countless photos in line so I could look back on them later. A personal favorite of mine, he has a book titled DIY Plumbing Repair. I am a big fan of the implication that he hates the Mario Brothers so much that he does his own plumbing. I think that's great. Now, the ride itself. It's basically a team-based Mario Kart race. You and 3 other guests share a kart and are with Team Mario, and your goal is to collect more coins than Team Bowser. And you basically get these coins by, you successfully hitting drifts and successfully hitting enemies, all that stuff. Now, you aren't, like, actually racing in go-karts. It's a track-based dark ride, but they kind of simulate the race through these AR goggles that you have to wear. And they have all the interactable elements, such as, like, item boxes, visual effects, other racers, and all that stuff. When you get an item box, you will always get shells, and to use them, you just need to look where you want to fire, press the button on the side of your wheel, and the shell goes off, and you get coins for hitting opponents. You definitely need to lead your shots a little bit, though, which it was a little difficult for me to adjust to. Not bad, though. I absolutely loved this ride, but I think my one thing is that I found the goggles uncomfortable. Like, you get the goggles, and then you still have a good ways to go until you actually board your vehicle. That entire time, I was, like, fidgeting with the goggles and trying to, like, get them on right. It was a little annoying. Once I was actually in the ride, it wasn't a problem, but, The actual visuals on the AR goggles, too, I found kind of difficult to read. It was like, what's going on? I'm sure it's going to be one of those things where, like, as I ride the ride more, I'm going to get, more used to them, and I'm going to be able to discern what's actually happening. But on a first go-through, it was hectic, but, which Mario Kart should be, but maybe a little too hectic. But, the goggles aren't everything. There are also physical set pieces, and I absolutely love them. Like, they depict a bunch of iconic Mario Kart locations. You go to Piranha Plant Slide, Twisted Mansion, and obviously you end off on Rainbow Road, and they, like, blow a bunch of wind at you to, make it feel like you're going super fast. I thought the physical sets were incredible, and it honestly makes me wish that I did a ride through where I just wasn't wearing the goggles and I was fully taking in the scenery. When I revisit Super Nintendo World, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do it. When you exit Bowser's Challenge, you will enter one of 2 gift shops, Mario Motors, and then the other gift shop is 1-Up Factory. And I prefer 1-Up Factory because they play the Mario title theme over the speakers, and you get instant points for that. Both of these stores sell more or less the same things, with the exception of Mario Motors, which carries Mario Kart merch, but, they have the sorts of things you would expect. T-shirts, headbands, toys, the sort. I'm a big plushie collector. I'm honestly running out of space. So I bought Bowser and Rosalina plushies, and I'm very satisfied with the build on them. They feel very high quality. The Bowser especially, I'm a big fan. And now we have the Toadstool Cafe, which is, your go-to dining option in the Mushroom Kingdom. I absolutely love this place. It's so cozy, and the theming is just, it's on point. When you're first entered, you're greeted by the head chef, who is named Chef Toad. That checks out. There's all these little windows on the walls, and they each are displaying animations of, like, the toads just, like, running around or playing, or, like, there's even one who just, like, falls flat on his face every now and then. It's fun to just watch the toads be silly and just do their thing while you're eating. You can even see some toads working in the kitchen. And every now and then, Bowser's army attacks the cafe, in case you wanted to get a bit of warfare in your dinner time. The music gets all scary, like the lighting gets sinister, and you can see, like, Bowser's airship approaching through the window, and, like, the toads all start panicking. But then Mario shows up, and, he saves the day, and everything goes back to normal. But it's a fun little event that happens every now and then. It didn't feel like it was happening too frequently. It felt very, very, like, evenly spaced out. I had heard that the wait times for the restaurant were pretty bad, but honestly, like, my food arrived in 5 minutes or so. It was not a problem at all. Now, you might be wondering what I had, and I had the Mario Burger without cheese, because I'm lactose intolerant. Thank you, Chef Toad, for being so accommodating. I didn't want to spend too much money, so that's all I really had, but there's a bunch of other fun, themed food, too. Probably my favorite is they make a cake, which is made by Peach herself, and it has, like, a little litter with it. That's just so cute. And if you're looking for a snack on the go, there is also Turbo Boost treats and Yoshi's Snack Island, so you have that too. When you first sync your power-up band to the app, you get told about how Bowser Jr. has stolen the Golden Mushroom, and in order to reach him, you have to unlock keys, which are held by his minions. You get these keys through key challenges, which are small attractions that are scattered throughout the park. All of them require a power-up band to play, but some of them support multiple people, and if you're on one of those, then only one person needs the power-up band, but, obviously that means only one person gets the key. There's 5 of these, starting with Bob-omb Kaboom Room. A lot of the key challenges are out in the open, but this one is tucked away in a tunnel, and you enter, and you get blown up and shrunken down by a Bob-omb. And they have this incredible effect where all of the walls in this hallway are screens. And when you get shrunk down, you see everything get bigger around you. And then you enter the next room and it's like, whoa, there's a giant Bob-omb. And that's such a genius effect. Basically, to the sides of the Bob-omb are broken pieces of a key, so you have to run between the 2 sides, quickly grab them all, and then put the pieces together in front of the Bob-omb before it explodes. And if you fail and it goes off, everything goes red and a gust of wind fills the room to simulate the explosion. I thought that was great. And also, very convenient in the Orlando heat. Koopa Troopa Power Punch. There's a Koopa Troopa and a shell going back and forth, and all you have to do is hit a POW block, cause a chain reaction that knocks the shell upwards and hits the Koopa Troopa. This one really isn't difficult, it's kind of just a matter of timing. If I recall correctly, I think they give you 3 tries before they go to the next person. In Thwomp Panel Panic, there's a bunch of panels, and every time this Thwomp slams down, they get all mixed up. And you have to make sure that all the panels are the same color before the timer runs out. I didn't have a strategy for this one, I just touched a bunch of panels, and it worked, first try. Goomba Crazy Crank. Spin the crank. Fast. That's it. The difficulty comes from the fact that there's no easy or comfortable way to turn this thing, but, that's about it. There's not much I can say about it. Now, the real nefarious key challenge for me is Piranha Plant Nap Mishap. There is a giant sleeping piranha plant and a bunch of alarm clocks, and whenever one starts ringing, you have to shut it off. And if all alarm clocks are silent by the time the timer runs out, you win. Now, I do actually have a story about this one. Super Mario Land is split into 2 floors, like floors of a building, and Piranha Plant Nap Mishap is right on the edge of the upper floor. And these alarm clocks are big, so I thought I had to hit them way harder than I actually had to. Turns out a gentle tap will do it, but it looked like it was going to require a lot of force. So I'm slamming my fist down on these clocks. And I lose because I'm by myself. And as I'm leaving, I realize that my power-up band is no longer on my wrist. And I'm thinking, oh no, I hit the clocks too hard and it flew off my wrist and it went over the edge and it landed on the lower floor and it's broken. But luckily it didn't fall over the edge and an employee was holding onto it for me and I'm immensely grateful for that. Remember when I said power-up bands are also amiibo? That's how mine got the name Survivor. Now, there's 5 of these key challenges, but you only need 3. And once you have those 3, you can take on Bowser Jr.'s Shadow Showdown. You have to scan your power-up band to be allowed entry. It's literally like getting ID'd, so there's no sneaking in there. The only way you're getting in there without keys is if you're in a group with somebody who does have them. The queue is pretty small, but it's fun. It's you're in this room with all these paintings of Bowser Jr., and you see all his stuff, and it's really fun. There's also a block that you can hit, and it just plays a sound effect of Bowser Jr. laughing, and it makes the lights go all crazy. Just to keep yourself entertained. The game itself takes place on this insanely wide screen that has Bowser Jr. running around on it, and everybody stands in front of the screen, and the shadows get projected onto it. And from there, it's just a matter of jumping and ducking to avoid Bowser Jr.'s attacks. You have to swat his Bob-ombs back at him, and you'll get fire flowers, and you have to throw fire at him whenever you get them. When you win, you'll be rewarded with the golden mushroom. My one complaint is that I was having trouble getting the game to register when I was swatting away Bob-ombs or when I was throwing fireballs. And I might have just been doing it wrong, but, I had a fun time either way. Now, farther back in Super Mario Land is the entrance to Donkey Kong Country. And if Super Mario Land is a video game, then Donkey Kong Country is basically the bonus campaign. It's smaller in scope, but the design philosophies and quality are all there. There's a meet and greet with Donkey Kong in front of his treehouse, there's the Bubbly Barrel, which sells all sorts of DK-themed treats, and we have Funky's Flying By from Tropical Freeze, which, come on, this works so well as a real-world kiosk, it's genius. Similarly to Super Mario Land, there is a scavenger hunt element here. There's more camouflaged readers, this time rewarding you with puzzle pieces on the Universal app, and you can hunt down the Kong letters from the game too. The Kong letters are sitting in plain sight, you cannot miss them, but I swear to you, that final puzzle piece took me so long to find, and I eventually realized it was literally right there on Funky's Flying By, and I just, I walked past it 20 times. It was great. Easily the biggest interactable element, though, is Rambi's Bongo Breakout. Basically, there's this crate with Rambi in it, and 3 sets of bongos, and everyone has to play them to the beat of the music, using the lights by Rambi's crate as a guide. You just keep doing that, and your victory will be marked by Rambi emerging from his crate. When I first walked up to this attraction, a staff member told me that the Rhino, that's what they called him, was out of commission for a bit, so they were just letting guests have fun with the bongos at their own pace. And what I thought this meant was that the game was in a backup free play mode where the win condition was disabled. It was only until the next day that I realized that was not the case, and you could still complete the game. The only difference is that Rambi's crate stays shut, which definitely recontextualizes his triumphant roar upon the game's completion as more of a cry for help. And to end our journey through Super Nintendo World, we have Minecart Madness. The wait time for Bowser's Challenge was always long, as I mentioned, but at least there, I had so much to look at, and I was entertained. But here, the wait line is long, and all I have to stare at are like a bunch of golden bricks. There are 2 monkey statues in the queue, and if 2 guests scan their power bands on them together, you get a projection of a banana and some fun lights and music. And that's kind of the only interesting thing that happens in this queue, and it was cool, but it's like I was in that room for so long and I was hearing it go off constantly. It started getting annoying after a while. But while I did find the queue pretty underwhelming in comparison to the other 2 queues, there is one crowning feature, that being animatronics of Cranky Kong and Squawks, and these are just easily my favorite animated figures in all of Super Nintendo Land. They look so good, they're so on model, there's so much life in their movements, and getting to hear Cranky Kong actually speak too, English, is such a treat. So Cranky tells guests that the Tiki Tech tribe has stolen the golden banana, and at this point, Nintendo has to be setting a record for how many golden items can you form a plotline around in one theme park. DK and Diddy Kong have already set out to stop them, and we have to hop in a minecart and help them out. That's it. Simple premise. Now, beforehand, I had seen footage of Minecart Madness, and take it from me, no footage you will find online will do this ride's speed justice. I was bracing myself for kind of a fast thrill ride. I did not realize that this was a full-blown roller coaster, and roller coasters really terrify me on just a conceptual level. So I was bracing the entire ride. But the ride itself is amazing. It's an absolute love letter to the Donkey Kong series minecart levels, and they managed to capture the feel of jumping from track to track with this super unique method. Basically, the track below your vehicle is non-functional. It is purely aesthetic, and what's actually carrying you through the ride is a robotic arm of sorts that's attached to your cart. So when the false track ends, the robotic arm keeps going, and it creates this illusion that you're jumping from track to track. It's very cool. As much as I fear roller coasters, I enjoyed this ride a lot, even if I had every ounce of energy knocked out of my body by the time I left it. But honestly, it does make me want to maybe tackle more high-intensity rides like this in the future. Also, I rode Minecart Madness right before the park closed, so I got a very beautiful view of Super Nintendo World at night. And that was my experience with Super Nintendo World. Obviously, it's pretty much one of the highlights of Epic Universe for me, and it really cannot be understated how much an achievement this is in just about every aspect. I cannot imagine making this and designing this and just getting it operational is easy at all. And maintaining it too. It provides a very unique, experimental style of guest interaction, and it's just a very Nintendo way of doing it. They're always doing these weird experimental things, and it makes sense they branch it out into their theme parks, but it works. It really works. And even if the park is a little rough around the edges at times, I cannot help but just respect this thing and what it's trying to do. And I had a great time. I eagerly await the day I can finally return to this place.